Ramsey. It did.
Yeah.
All right, we've established a quorum. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:01. We're going to begin with our invocation. May we come together with open hearts and clear minds, seeking wisdom for the decisions before us. Grant us the clarity to lead with fairness, the courage to do what is right, and the compassion to serve all members of our community. May our efforts reflect integrity, unity, and a shared commitment for the good of our town. Amen. Move to a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So our first order is the adoption of the agenda. I do know that I at least need to make one update to the agenda, and that is under the closed session. We would like to add an additional closed session for discussion of disposition of town property. Under the closed. No, that was it again. For discussion of disposition of town property.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion also on the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to move the council members' discussion to either after section 3 or after section 5, before section 5, which is similar to what the Board of Supervisors just did to get the comments from the staff put up in the beginning portions of the meeting so that the public has a chance to hear them, since they're normally done after closed session. So they have moved theirs, and I'd like to make a motion for us to either move item 9, the comments by members of the town council, to either follow item 3 after public comment or before the committee and staff reports.
Our preference would be before standing committee reports, but does anyone have a strong urge either way? That way you get through new business, old business, and then have council comments.
It doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to me either.
And would you like to do that like permanently moving?
Yes, it's a permanent change.
Okay.
That's not there, and that's something to be done
In the bylaw.
in the bylaw.
Mhm.
Tonight we can do it with this agenda.
Either put it before the standing committee reports and the reports from staff. Which,
Well, I think, excuse me, I think your motion was to put it,
either after public comment or before the standing committee reports, whichever is you prefer.
so if you move it, we'll have to have another motion on it.
It's actually not. A motion is not. So what we're
Right,
doing is
that's why I'm asking.
doing is amending the agenda, and then you will vote on the amended agenda.
So amend the agenda after we approve it.
Yeah, what you're doing is, as the mayor has proposed one amendment to the agenda, you're proposing the second agenda, and then
Okay.
there would be a motion and a vote to approve the agenda as amended,
That works.
and that's us tonight.
Yeah, keep me straight.
With regard to
Permanency.
permanently, that's when you get to your bylaws and your organizational part of the meeting, you can make that change.
Yeah, I think I marked it up on the bylaws, just in case.
Yep.
So we're good to move this discussion by members of town council up to what will now be number 6. Item 6.
Yeah.
And then standing committee will become 7. Is that cool? Right? Yeah. Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? There a motion to approve the agenda? With the amendments as stated.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Mr. Henry, Ms. Rigby, or Ms. Hart, or Mr. Crawford. Mr. Purcell.
Four.
Motion passes. We're now going to move to the consent agenda. To consideration of accounts and appropriation and approval of minutes from the December meeting.
One thing. What changed on the sewer expenses? Sewer on the preliminary was 74,000. Well, 39,000 on sewer, and then on the
I can get you exactly what changed in an email, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Those are, Terry does the bills, so I'll have to look at her bills to find out exactly which ones.
Which change are you referencing? Change from what?
39,000 to 52,000 on the final bill.
Afterward,
Change.
This is just a sewer payment to LCWA, correct?
I think it will, yeah.
Yeah. So what was the period you were looking at the earlier?
And this is the preliminary bill for January 20.
Okay. Yeah,
The final bill was
I see.
$12,000.
Yeah, true. You can get that answer.
I can get that to him tomorrow, once I look at the bills.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you think this might be a computer problem, or is there a county problem? Or
Seems like a large increase.
increase.
It's not something. It's a data question. We have to look into that. I can't speak to that till I have more data. Till she has more data.
Once we vote on this, it's a done deal. Is there any way to put a stipulation on this, Mr. Gold?
You can. I think we can make a motion to accept with the acknowledgement that Francesca will provide an email update on the status of that charge. As soon as she figures it out, they can do that.
Yes,
We can't do that.
I think so.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion and just get us going that I'd like to approve the consent agenda with the understanding that the treasurer will provide additional information on the water sewer charge. It's listed on the preliminary bill list to council members via email.
All right, I'll say.
Oh. Ms. Rigby, or Ms. Hart,
For
Mr. Crawford,
Four.
Mr. Purcell,
Four.
Mr. Henry.
Four.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is approved. We're going to move into the public comment section, which provides citizens an opportunity to discuss matters that are not listed on the printed agenda or in a kind of an open public hearing, which we do not have one tonight. Any person wishing to bring a matter to council's attention, this is the section where you would state your name, your address, and the matter that you would like to discuss. We'll give you 3 minutes to discuss those items. Please know that we will respond to direct questions in the thread. No one signed up. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and move into new business. Our first item on the agenda is discussion, sorry, my microphone back. Sounded like the Lord for a minute. Discussion and action for the adoption of the bylaws. And you will note in your agenda, there is a quick kind of executive summary overview, just kind of the top pieces of each of the sections for you. I know it was a lot.
I have. Madam Mayor, I do have a bunch of questions on this.
Jeff, I may lean into you for some answers as well.
Okay, my first question is on, I guess it's page 3. Make sure it's on choosing there. Oh, it's not in here. Oh, it is a separate. That was in the single section. Ah, there we go. Sure. There's just random any adjustments. Bylaws, just like because it makes. Yeah, this is. My first question is the time and place on section alpha. The time and place of regular meetings and work sessions with town council shall be established at each organizational meeting. How do we establish work sessions at our annual organizational meeting when we don't know we need a work session or when it's going to be? That is my question. They're also work sessions are also typically scheduled based on council availability. So I'm not sure how the work session portion is part of that discussion.
I read this as it shall be. That doesn't mean it's required, but we have.
Shall legally is required.
This is not legal document, first of all, this is just. So it's how you do your business and not a legal doc. But I don't think this paragraph even sets special work session dates.
Well, that's what I thought. That's why I was asking. It says shall be established as each annual organ. I don't think it has anything to do with.
It could if you add those dates. This establishes your regular meeting. So you strike and work sessions. Then it just deals with regular.
Yeah, you understand my question.
Yeah, if you want it to deal with work sessions, then somewhere you should set out the work session dates.
Correct.
In addition to.
That's why I wrote, yeah.
Like some logos will say, the third Tuesday is our regular meeting, and then every other. Is it in B?
Mhm.
Yeah, so then, the next paragraph.
And that was the other thing. If we approve every work session will be held on the first Tuesday of every month, then we're having a work session every first Tuesday of the month.
And
So-
unless you cancel it, so it's easy to cancel.
But there would be no other day. Because we're putting in here that is the work session day. So that's why I brought it up for so I don't know if we want to tie the first Tuesday of every month up as an official work session day for any future work session meetings like this states, or if we want to eliminate the work session comment and do it as we typically do, as we need one, we just call one based on availability. So I'm open for discussion. I'm just asking.
Yeah, Mayor, so I guess my interpretation of paragraph A, was that if we had regularly scheduled work sessions, that we would go ahead and set them at that time, but since we don't have regularly scheduled work sessions, that it doesn't hurt for that to be in there, but just more of a, since we know all of our regular meetings take place the third Tuesday of the month, if we wanted to set up regularly scheduled work sessions, we would do that at the same time. Not that we necessarily have to do that. I thought it just gave us the option to do it in there, so I didn't see personally any issue with the wording from that section. I do think discussion regarding paragraph B as to whether or not the first Tuesday is something that works for everyone or whether we want to set that precedent makes sense. But again, I don't personally see any wording, my interpretation of
With the top.
with the top one. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there were no work sessions on the calendar. That's why I'm asking.
Mhm.
That is, so,
So would you like to just eliminate B? So that way you just have the ability to add the work sessions as needed, but not then be designated on a specific day if they are needed.
I mean, that's up to everyone. That's what I would recommend. Because everyone here is not always available on the first Tuesday of every month. And that level.
And then Madam Mayor, if I may, I don't recall regarding work sessions if there's somewhere else. And again, I read through this, but I don't remember everything word for word. I don't recall if there's another section, and perhaps Jeff can help when it's in the other in
There is,
where it is as far as it's needed to do a special work section. I just don't want to take this paragraph out completely if we don't have somewhere else within the bylaws that we're addressing that.
Mhm.
the only conflict that I found, Sylvia, was a conflict with section 2.5. Section 2.5 is the legal holidays, which says the meeting shall be held on the preceding business day, which would be kind of hard to do anyway. Also, a legal holiday that usually is us, because we have had to move them occasionally because of some odd holiday, like Christmas or whatever. That was the only scheduled conflict I saw. And on here, it says, oh, it was the continuation of the section 2.5 conflict is more with the continuation. There, I didn't see any place else in the bylaws where we even discussed the dates.
I wasn't thinking about, sorry, I wasn't thinking about dates so much as just showing that we have the ability to call work session, in general, because I didn't know, I don't recall if there was somewhere else that discussed work sessions within the bylaws. I don't recall seeing anything. I know there's special meetings that are called out.
It is in our code already.
If we potentially change that, if there's concern about, I think the thought of having a dedicated date and time just means that people can prepare and plan for it. But if that's the concern, if we want to remove that first Tuesday of every month and just they can be held on a date and time as agreed upon by council.
That's was the only comment. Was the actual date,
Yeah.
not the whole thing. It's just the date part.
Everyone feel good about that instead.
The only change would be to remove the reference to it will be held the first Tuesday of every month. That's the only change. Everything else stays the same. So it may be worded as if needed, a work schedule may be scheduled and shall begin at 6 unless otherwise set by council into discussion. And then the rest of it stays there. And then I guess as part of that comment, I had a question for Jeff. If we have a statement that says in steps and matters which require immediate action due to time constraints or deadlines, fiscal policies or emergencies, is that not a special council meeting, which is not a work session?
Yeah, so there's a separate section with special meetings, which is drawn from state law, and emergency or special meetings. And a work session is it's just a less formal meeting.
Right,
So, I mean,
that's why I was
it's
at,
making the distinction between a regular scheduled meeting, which you set the entire calendar for, work session, which you could, as it's proposed, first Tuesday or whatever, as a placeholder. And then you can always cancel if you need it or if you reschedule. Bottom line is, whenever you have a meeting, you have to comply with the FOIA notice requirements. So you can do, whatever you want, as long as you post the meeting notice the right way. And it's different under the law for a special emergency meeting versus.
yeah, that's why I was asking, because this is work session meetings in the last line, it's got that except in matters which require immediate action. That's a special call meeting. That's not a work session meeting.
Well, it reads, it's just the action taken during that work session, is that there may be times that you have, because it's indicating that the council will approve or deny any item before or during the work session, reserving that for the regular meetings, except if there's some sort of an emergent situation that would require action to be taken in that work session.
Yes, ma'am, that's my question. That if that condition existed, that's not really a work session. That's a special call meeting. That's the difference right there.
So I guess and again, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. I guess my thought is if during the work session, it becomes apparent that immediate action needs to be taken, do we want to then have to call a separate special meeting? I think this is allowing us that if we as a council determine that during a work session, something becomes an immediate emergent need, that we can go ahead and act on it at that time, rather than having to call a separate meeting.
That's right. This is just
So
a
we-
policy.
We should do that during
Yeah,
a work
this-
session.
You can do it at any time.
Okay.
It-
That's my question.
Unless the action itself requires a specific type of notice under the law. In other words, you can't say, you know what? We didn't advertise that zoning amendment, but you know what? He really needs us to vote on it tonight. So let's add it to the agenda. You can't do that because if you haven't met the state notice requirements for a zoning amendment, you can't do it. So
Okay,
this is just saying.
that's fine then.
I think it's-
That was
yeah.
my.
Sorry, I was confused. Yeah, I mean, it's really just saying the policy is, just for your information and the public, says we're generally not going to vote on things like work sessions unless something comes up that we need to.
I'm fine with that.
That's the gist.
So, is that? So I guess my only question is, do we want to lock in the first Tuesday of every month on the calendar to set aside for work session meetings, or just as council? And just say work sessions will be scheduled as needed. Because if we do, we're gonna have to put out there, will be.
Jeff, with the way that it's read, that if needed, a work session meeting may be held. If we leave in the language about the first Tuesday, I'm not reading it as we are being required to set the meetings for every first Tuesday. It's just saying if we need it, that would be the time frame that we.
Yeah, I mean, by using the term may, you're not really establishing.
Yeah, it doesn't say shall.
It's just sort of a placeholder. And you would then need to, the advantage of actually picking a placeholder date and say shall, unless otherwise scheduled or determined by council, is that then you, and you post notice of your resolution that has your references, your bylaws, and you post the meeting dates, then you've met the FOIA requirements for the entire year.
Yeah.
And you can always cancel a meeting by posting a cancellation notice.
Yeah, that.
But the May doesn't really
set the meeting date, so then you would still have to, each time you have a work session, post 3 days, business days in advance, notice of the meeting. You can do it either way. I mean, it just depends on.
Yeah, it's just
council's
the
preference.
cancellation of saying we're not having one that I refer to, because having the date, now we have to say, okay, not one, not doing one. That's the, somebody would have to have that response.
Yeah, it's just that.
That's my only comment on section B. It does not matter to me which way it goes. It's just that we would have to provide notification if we don't have it.
If you schedule.
But now you don't have to do it because you're just saying May, so it's really just like. We don't know yet. We think this is when we'll probably do it. And then, if you later say, well, that's working, then you can adopt the schedule for the rest of the year. Or you can just keep it on an ad hoc basis if it turns out it's too hard to, you can't pin everyone down that day every month. Then it just becomes, we're going to schedule it as we can schedule it, and then we'll post notice when I can get a forum, which is what I think has been.
Right, that's how.
The advantage of the committees is you can run ideas or issues like before the committee and get clarity as to whether you need a full meeting, whether you can work session. So the advantage of the committees gives you that safety net. So you don't really have to preload a meeting. You have run it by the committee, then you can decide if you want to advance it to the full committee. Would be my thought.
Talk about health work session.
Yeah, council work sessions.
Full council.
So no changes to that here.
I would say no changes. It has May in there. These are the, but
Yes, and if we need to schedule it, we'll have it posted. And if for whatever reason it gets to a cadence where it's pretty regular, that we can always change that language to shall.
And so, the next one is section 2-2, continued meetings. A regular or work session meeting shall be continued to the immediately following regular meeting date time, unless otherwise set. So we're going to wait a month.
I think that's saying worst case scenario, it's a month, but we can always call a special meeting as needed to address additional items. But that's saying at a minimum, it will be added and continue to the next schedule.
So this is referring to agenda items that were not able to be discussed. Is that correct?
That's correct, Jack. Within the meetings.
This is dealing with situations where the meeting's not held. So maybe it's a little misnomer saying continue.
Okay, that's what was throwing me.
Yeah,
off.
this,
So
look at line 3.
postponed meeting.
This is when if the mayor or vice mayor is unable to act, finds or declares the weather conditions are such that it's hazardous for people to attend. I think that's what's saying is this is a scenario where if it's determined that we can't hold the meeting, we're gonna hold it at the next regular scheduled.
Yeah, I circled that sentence because I'm like, this doesn't make sense to follow
It's
the
not.
first sentence. But
So a regular, it actually should say a regular meeting or work session, unable to be held.
okay, so it's not a continued meeting.
Right.
Okay.
I would say reschedule meeting. Reschedule regular meeting.
So this really is the title of section 2.2 is really a good postponed or schedule.
Yeah.
Whichever word, I don't care.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I'm making notes so I can fix it, but yeah, regular or work session meeting unable to be held, and it'll tie to the reasons because it's determined. It's not saying.
yeah, and
It's giving you a default date to continue.
the note I had made was this is not a continued meeting, it is a meeting postponement. On, my next. Does anybody else have any comments on those? Or I keep going? I don't want to go past somebody. On, section 2.4, special or emergency meetings. My only comment is on section B, where it says special or emergency meetings may be called by the mayor or any two council members. Our code and our charter in section 3.9 says that you have to have 3 council members to call a meeting. That,
And we've changed that in the charter bill as 2 because 2 is what state law. The 2 is state law.
okay. So since state law overrides the charter,
In most cases.
I'm fine with that, if that is the.
Yeah, this is just making it track with state law.
Okay,
And with the new charter.
And I believe we also did that to the new
Charter.
charter track with state law as well.
I think we didn't even put it in.
Maybe we took it out.
Yeah, we took it out.
Yeah.
That's
And
why,
if it's in the code, when we do code updates, we can.
yeah, it is in the code, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we didn't conflict.
Yeah, you're,
That was my comment.
it's making it consistent with state.
And, section 2.5, under legal holidays. When a regularly scheduled meeting falls on a holiday, the meeting shall be held the preceding business day. My only question on this was that how do we even get there when we have a preordained calendar? Because we already said we have a calendar for the organizational meetings and we always take into account when we schedule those, the holidays. So I'm just wondering how it's even possible, but I don't have a problem with it being there. I just don't see how we ever get there. On, section 2.6, that's on the vice mayor. The vice mayor in code 3.4, the vice mayor serves at the discretion of council, and that term is kept as it was with the prior vice mayors until they leave office or council decides they want to change the vice mayor, then they have a vote or whatever. So my question is, and that's in code under 3.4. So my question is, because the vice mayor is a signer on the bank account, doing this every year, and this is under the assumption that it's being changed every year, because that's the worst case. Assuming that it's done every year, this is disruptive to the bank accounts and the time needed for the vice mayor to get up to speed on the activities that you have to do, especially when you become the acting mayor, which I can attest to. And it is not in accordance with our code. So I'm just wondering, and even the write-up on the new code, which you have not seen yet, did not change that. So that is my only question. Why are we changing the vice mayor? And the next one is C. But B is a code violation.
Okay, I know at one point, I believe the charter mentioned something about vice mayors all as well. Did we eliminate all of that?
No,
Or no, because if so, that would have been 2 years, not 1 year, in which case if we're looking to update things with our proposed charter, then I would think that this would potentially be 2 years rather than 1 year. But I do concede to Vicky's point, I do think perhaps we should add a line in there, that while they will be elected, that they do serve as at the discretion of council and it potentially, I mean, I don't know if that's
Yeah,
something we would want to do or not.
we can do it. Well, that's the way it's perfect, the way you just said. That council can at any time make that change. It is,
I think the new code states, or the new proposed charter
then you
I believe it said 2
been
years.
proposed as 2 years, but it has not come before us yet. So right now, there is no term limit.
The charter or the code? The term.
The draft chart is pending in the General Assembly, but so currently there's no.
There's no term limit in the charter. It's the code that, the rewrite code that says 2 years. The charter is an unlimited term. That's why the prior vice mayor was in that position for so long.
But the draft code does state 2 years?
Yes. And that has not come before you, not the charter, the code.
Right.
The code has not come before you for discussion. So right now, the existing code.
And the draft charter no longer addresses it.
No, it does.
No, it does.
That also-
It has an unlimited term.
Yeah, there's no term limit.
Okay, in the draft charter.
Right.
Okay.
And I really don't want to go into discussion of the draft, because you haven't even seen
No,
it.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I was remembering 2 years from somewhere and I was trying to.
I'm pretty certain it is in the charter. That there's a 2-year term listed in the draft charter.
I know it was, but I know we redlined a lot of that out, so I didn't know if that was, I cannot recall if that was redlined
I
out.
will also say that the good thing about bylaws is that if needed, correct, Jeff, if we land on a year right now, but then the charter is passed that implicates 2 years, we can easily update these bylaws to be consistent with the charter.
You can update it anytime you want.
It doesn't require like the.
Bring them up at any meeting.
Mhm.
I think there is a provision about it having to be brought up at one meeting and then adopted the next meeting. So there's a process, but yes, it's pretty easy.
But that was my concern. Next is,
Before we move on, do we want to discuss that? Are we good with 1 year as it's stated? Do we want to adjust that at this time or leave it as it's?
I brought it up, so I'm not gonna, I'll let everybody else discuss.
I'm looking at the charter bill, it's before the General Assembly, and it does have a 2-year term for vice mayor. As introduced. Yeah.
Can you read how it's worded, Jeff?
It's, the town council shall elect from among its members a vice chair who shall serve a term of 2 years or until the successor is so elected.
Yeah.
So that's in the draft charter, it's not law, obviously.
The only concern, I mean, it's in the charter, so it is what it is at this, point, is if that individual is selected and they only have. Like if they stagger their terms, that it's a time when they're not gonna be here for 2 years, or it limits who's.
Well, then they're no longer in a position. That's the part of that statement.
That's addressed in the wording. there.
Yeah, it is.
Is it, I'm looking now, I'm looking at your current chart.
It's under 3.4.
Current chart includes the 2 years or no?
No.
So it's not,
It's
it's not,
No,
it's just. a
yeah, the
draft.
charter is just, you pick one and they're there until council decides to change it. And the code section is 3.4. That's the one that has the vice mayor serves at the discretion of council.
The only place where it's proposed to be 2 years is in the introduced charter.
Correct.
Not,
Otherwise, it's and that's why we had our vice mayor that was there for a while. Because council never replaced that individual, and I'm not saying we have to,
yeah, I mean,
but that's why it was like that. So to make it consistent, the vice mayor, it serves at the discretion of council, just the way that we had it, the way that it is. No, I'm the one that added the 2 years, only because but you may get reelected for that position. And this is like this is the beginning of year 2 for me. My purpose was to enable other individuals to have that responsibility and not put financial through all the bank records and everything every single year. But again, you can always reelect the same council, can always reappoint the same person, and then you don't go through all the bank shenanigans.
Just think the thought behind it is just kind of when we're talking about organizational structure, just addressing all of those things like other boards and municipalities do. They usually elect a chairman, a vice chairman. It's all done at the same time.
They don't have it in their charter. The county does not have it in their charter and code. That's why they do that.
So where did we land on that?
So one option, Madam Mayor, is to track the current code and current charter, but acknowledge that that could change. And one way to do that is to say, vice mayor shall be elected at the annual meeting, at the annual organizational meeting. Period, essentially, and the vice mayor shall serve at the pleasure of council unless otherwise provided by law. Law will be the charter. If the charter passes with a 2-year term, that will supersede.
And I'm fine with that. It's,
Okay, had a 2-year term, and I thought it was.
Your current charter does not have, nothing has a 2-year term except
Nothing
the
has a
draft
2-year
bill
term.
that's in Richmond right now.
Right.
So, which doesn't even take effect until July 1. If it passes with that provision. You know, if you all decide you don't prefer that, then you can always let your delegate know that council has just adopted its bylaws and looked at its current code and actually prefer one, no term, just at the pleasure of council. But you don't need to solve that today. For today, you could just say, track the current charter and code, essentially, and say the vice mayor shall be elected at the annual organizational meeting and shall serve at the pleasure of the council unless otherwise provided by law.
and I'm fine with that if that's, if everybody else is okay with that. Let's see. That is, okay, page 5. As at the top, section C, following the election of the vice mayor, the council shall appoint the clerk of the council. We really appoint the clerk of the council because she's always the clerk. So why are we appointing a clerk?
Some do it every year. You don't have to. If you appointed the clerk as the clerk, that's a job. You don't
Yeah,
have to be.
That's
appointed
what
every
we did.
year.
That's what we
Some
did.
do as a matter of course. So that section can be.
And the other, number 4 of that same section, following the election of the vice mayor, which technically occurs today, it says we shall adopt a financial policy. We haven't even had a work meeting to discuss the financial policy. So do we need to do that on the same day as we are doing organizational? Because you haven't even had the work meeting yet.
I think this year, it doesn't make sense. I think going forward, the organizational meetings will have that stuff. So I think it's something to keep in there.
So you want to have the order, this is the question for what you just said. Do you mind if I ask? So you want to do it in December? Because you would have to have it before the first meeting.
We have to
Establish.
discuss it in December. And this meeting, but moving everything. Keep the meeting organizational only in January, have everything set up by December to do that.
Yep, so that you would have the bylaws, the financial policy, all of those things set for the year.
And as I think Jeff already stated, and the county and the town of Mineral, they've always had bylaws, but they adopt them every single year. It's not a one-time thing. So we'll be back here.
Yes, this is the,
Yeah, this is number one. So that was my question on this one. If we're going to elect, after the election of the vice mayor section, we don't have a financial policy to adopt. So that's why I circled it. It's how are we doing this? But that,
So would it be,
leaving it as knowing that we're not going to do it today. But we may do it in next year's,
just guidelines. It's just saying after this happens and you have your mayor and vice mayor place, you some point do these things. I mean, it kind of reads as if they're done that night, but you know, there's no harm in leaving it. But typically financial policy is something you're going to adopt once and then revisit periodically. It's not necessarily going to be an annual.
well, that's what, yeah.
What I would add in here is, and this is what Stephanie just handed out. On an annual basis, you have to adopt your electronic meeting and participation policy. That has to be done by state law now, every year. So I thought I addressed that somewhere.
You did put it, it is in there.
It is
It's in there in a
somewhere
different section.
Okay, I was gonna say, plug that in there, but
Do you want to replace that with the financial policy?
Yeah.
And then the financial policy would just be an agenda item that we would just know that we need to have when it's ready.
and so section 2-11, on page 7. Next page addresses the policy on electronic meetings and meetings. Promoting participation, which is to be attached as well. Thank you, Stephanie, for handing this out. This goes behind it as an attachment. Apologize.
No, that's okay.
Take care.
No, you're fine, you're fine. This is why, I mean, we never got to see it, so until it came out in the agenda packet, so this is the only opportunity we have to ask. Section 2.8, the seating, why do we have to have a seating arrangement based on seniority and bylaws? Do we really care?
I mean, personally, I don't really care, but I do understand that if there's some discord amongst members, it gives us something to go back and point to say, this way we have no argument. I mean, I would think we can all be adults and figure our seating arrangement without that, but
I wrote exactly what you just said. I put, really, we are adults.
understood, but it also allows for, if for some reason there is confrontation, it does allow us to point back to something to resolve conflict.
Unless that conflicting individual has seniority. And then can make the seating, because they have first choice on this as to where to sit. All we're talking about is sitting at the table. That's it. We have a whole section for sitting at the table.
Again, it's just.
I understand the first sentence, because the vice mayor always sits by the mayor. But the rest of it, determining seating by seniority and then picking which seat you want first, seemed a little odd to me for us. Maybe it's because we get along and we've never had that problem. I'm just curious why we have a bylaw that says, so now we're gonna have to set our seats today after this is approved.
It's the only thing that a senior council member has that makes him sit.
I mean,
Earned it.
if you want to set your seats, well, after we approve the bylaws, we can do that. And we'll, yes, who do we even start with? We start with you? John, you've been on longest. Okay, John gets to pick his seat first. And then we just go down the list. It just seemed a little odd that, we're going to that detail.
My only comment with that was the vice mayor has traditionally for us sat on the right and not the left. I don't know that we need
Well,
to
I
change
thought,
that.
I saw that.
If there's any, unless there's some precedent for why a vice mayor should sit on the left versus the right.
Well, I thought maybe they're talking from the audience perspective, in which case it would be just the way we are.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't state whether it says mayors.
It's in his office.
Yeah.
So I assume it's,
So we just want to change that to right.
yes.
Yeah, it's a seat. It doesn't matter, you know, I just thought this is it's like being in school when I tell the kids you're getting assigned seats. Yeah, it's. And section 3.2 on page 8 under the clerk just states what we already said. The clerk does not have to be reappointed each year. That's in the first line, which is part of why I brought up C, but that's been taken out, so it doesn't matter. On page 10, the only change is to move the council discussion comments section to where we just moved it to.
So after old business.
Yeah, or after appointments, because you have appointments on here, but that's not on the agenda, the other agenda.
So on the council discussion up to under appointments and before standing committees report.
And then on the same page, number 11, we have a color-coded timing system in place. That's on number 11 at the bottom of page 10. A timer with a lighting system shall be used for keeping track of the speaker's time with the yellow and red warning lights. We have that?
I don't believe we have it in stock, do we? I don't think so.
So that was my question on that one. I don't even think we have that. I have it on my phone because I'm a professional speaker and they give us timers that have a red and a yellow timer that sets up just like this. So this looks like something that comes out of regular speaker protocol.
So we removed the sentence, a timer with the lighting system. I think
It's just the timing. Yeah, that part. The rest of it, I don't know, it was just, we're gonna do this, but we don't even have that.
the speakers will receive a 1 minute warning, which I do think we need to keep in.
Yeah, that's, the timing was not the issue. It was just the
Speakers
timer
will see lights, a red light at the expiration. So just those two sentences.
It's just, yeah, it's just the light. It's not the timing. That's
But, well, hold
so-
on, are we authorizing me to authorize staff to purchase this device?
No, we're removing it from.
Oh, you're moving.
Yeah, we're removing it.
We're keeping the time, but we're removing the device.
So speakers will receive a red light at the expiration of their time and will be asked in their comments. Instead of that, say speakers will be notified at the expiration of their time and shall be asked.
And we're in the same paragraph, but on page 11, it says that members of a group in attendance shall forfeit their right to speak on the same topic. For purposes of this section, a group shall constitute 10 or more individuals. What is considered a group? Because public comments is the only time the citizens have to comment. And I looked at Virginia code, and I'll use an example. A neighborhood is not a group. It is within a group of individuals that, as we had in that one public hearing where we had all those people come in and now, but they all belong to the same quote unquote group. So now we're gonna say that they can't talk if there's more than 10 of them? Only one person can talk. I think that's a First Amendment violation.
You don't have to allow public comment. You have the public hearing, you do. Public comment only have to be at least quarterly. A group could be better defined, or I would recommend tabling this. And moving on and adopting your meeting schedule and doing your other organizational business. Vice mayor election meeting schedule, those are only two things you have to do. And giving all these comments in writing, because we have a motion to make the amendments of changes that have been discussed. That's just my recommendation would be to
Yeah.
table this, bring it back next month with written track changes and comments to save time.
Yeah, we could do that.
But you should adopt your meeting schedule. And you should do the vice mayor.
Do we want a motion for that then, since it has discussion and action on their agenda, move to table the adoption of the annual bylaws? Until next meeting, so that a red line copy with changes can be presented.
I think that's appropriate. To defer action.
Before making a full motion, I would like to, are there additional, I don't want to come back and then have to go through the second half of this. If there's only like 2 or 3 more comments, I don't know.
Have one.
If there's multiple, perhaps we should just defer it to dare I say work session.
Yeah, there's at least 10 more.
Then I need to defer discussion of the bylaws to the next meeting to allow additional time for review and drafting of a red line copy.
Ms. Hart,
Four.
Mr. Crawford. Priscilla.
Or
Four. Okay. Motion passes to defer the discussion of bylaws to the next meeting. We're going to move on to the appointment of the vice mayor. So the bylaws had outlined kind of a process for it, specifically allowing council members to nominate individuals from within the council. And then those that are nominated can be voted on the council. Is there any nominations for a vice mayor?
Well, before we do that, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Our code has no time limit. But the charter does, that I've sent to Richmond has a time limit, but that is not law yet.
Correct.
Is that correct? But if the code passes, or the charter passes, we will be doing that every 2 years. Is that correct?
Unless we request to have that provision of the charter
In the charter.
correct before it's passed.
The only other question I got is, and I understand, and I'm trying to, and Sylvia and John can help me with this, before and I understand why Miss Hart signed checks. Because we need somebody to sign checks, but did the vice mayor sign checks before?
Yeah, it's in our charter, vice mayor and,
In practice, the mayor and vice mayor both had authority to sign checks. I do believe in our I don't remember if it's the charter or the code current, not the proposed. It does have provisions for the vice mayor to be a signer on it.
I'm just curious why we would need that, because assuming the town manager and maybe the clerk or the treasurer has the ability to sign checks too, is that right?
So that's there in case of emergency, like what happened last time, if he's not here or I'm not here, they can sign the checks that have to be signed.
You have them to,
Because you have to have the checks on check, that's.
How many do we have on there for?
The Stephanie's on it as well.
We have a odd number, sure, we can pick up two people at a time. If everybody goes to the body at the same time.
So the mayor and vice mayor are more emergency wise. And we are the immediate ones. If he's not here, Stephanie and I can sign. If I'm not here, Stephanie and Stuart can sign.
Well, best I remember, I think it was a hard time getting Miss Hart permission to get on that checking account last time, but well, I didn't either, but just what I'm hearing, what is a hard time.
It was because there was no mayor.
It was because of, if I may, it was because of the lack of staff, because we had so much turnover in staff. We didn't have anyone that was still a current member of council or a current staff member that had authority on the account in order to allow us to then change the account. So we had to get additional documentation to the bank to show the change over in staff and in council so that we could then prove out who the new signers needed to be. So it was more of a documentation process that only occurred because of the extreme loss of and changeover of staff and council that all happened to occur at the same time. It was not something that I would anticipate being a regular occurrence when it comes to needing to have a account signer changed.
It was a quick process to have the.
Oh, that's your question.
do we have any nominations for vice mayor?
I don't think we have to have a nomination. We don't have. Right now, charter doesn't have a time limit unless council wants to change the vice mayor position.
Or vice mayor serves at the pleasure of council, so typically it's something you do with the organizational meeting. So if there's nominations, you can continue. You can nominate someone else. You could have multiple candidates. Yeah, it's the process.
This from that process is just reassuring that everybody is still in agreement that the person that had been previously elected is still serving at the will of council.
Yeah, because we've never done this. So then somebody would have to make a motion to nominate somebody as vice mayor. I feel kind of strange saying I would nominate myself just because it's easy on everything else. Because I'm already there, but it just seems it would be better if somebody else made a nomination, but I'm just funny that way.
I'll make a nomination for Sylvia.
I would like to respectfully decline because I have so many other commitments. I don't want to overextend myself. But thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate that. Assuming I'm allowed to decline, I never really had been.
I'm said procedurally, Madam Mayor, if council doesn't act, then I think under the current ordinance and charter, the current mayor would continue that position unless there's a council action to the contrary.
Oh,
think this adds to the discussion as to why is this part of the annual organization. When it's a position that council can change, one council has an issue, needs to change that position. Usually it changes when a person leaves office.
You know, I mean, it makes, if I may speak, it makes sense, put somebody in that is gonna, starting out with their 4-year term, or finishing up your 4-year term. Give them 2 years, so I really don't know. I really don't have no, opinion on it, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, the vice mayor, as long as we have a mayor, just a title, there's no pay increase.
The vice mayor did become the acting mayor until we were able to appoint him. It did once, it could do it, it can happen again.
We don't have.
We hope it does not happen, but yeah, it does. I don't know, Jeff, can I nominate myself just to get this part of the meeting over?
Yeah, I can, or the mayor can close the nomination. If there's no nominations, if there's no motions, then you continue as vice mayor. So that's the other.
That would be, just keep going. Yes.
So are there no nominations?
I'd like to nominate, Roger Henry for the position of vice mayor.
Except,
Are there any other nominations? We need to vote if there are no additional nominations.
If there are no other nominations, you would close the floor to nominations. If there are, move to the vote.
We're going to close the floor to nominations and move to a vote. Oh, all in favor of Roger being appointed vice mayor? Aye. Right, moves forward, we're all approved. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, roll call if you want, yes, you want facts, but yeah, so I couldn't hear everyone, just for the record, it was.
It was unanimous.
Yeah.
Are we doing what Mr. Henry abstained, I guess?
Did he? So, you
Did
abstain?
you vote or did you abstain?
Why don't we just do a roll call?
You want to do a roll call?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Crawford,
or,
Mr. Purcell,
or,
Mr. Henry,
or,
Ms. Rigsby, 4, Ms. Hart.
4.
Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move on to the next item, which is the appointment of committees. I have 2 lists because I didn't know if the bylaws are passed or not. I'm going to be utilizing the list from the town code plus the additional special committees that have been created. So for police matters. We go. No, because I didn't know which one it was going to be. Because if the bylaws were passed, the committees are listed there. So I'm just going to read them out loud. We don't have it. Yep, so I'm going to read the committee out loud and then the chair and second chair for it. So for police matters, the chair will be Vicky Hart with Sylvia Rigsby. Street and sidewalks, the chair will be Sylvia Rigsby with Roger Henry. Cemeteries, the chair will be Danny Crawford with Vicky Hart. Personnel, the chair will be John Purcell with Sylvia Rigsby. Water and sewer, the chair will be John Purcell with Roger Henry. Legal matters will be, the chair will be Danny Crawford with Vicky Hart. I know, we gotta spread the love.
I was really trying to take them.
You're going
to do that.
You're going very bad.
If you can't be there, Vicky is there. And we have a town attorney. And hopefully that legal matters committee, once the bylaws are adopted, will kind of blend into that intergovernmental relations.
So who, I think I missed streets and sidewalks.
Streets and sidewalks, chair is Sylvia Rigsby, counselor with her will be Roger Henry.
Water and sewers, who?
John Purcell and Roger Henry. Okay. Finance, chair will be Sylvia Rigsby with Danny Crawford. Refuge and recycling and litter, Vicky Hart will chair with Danny Crawford. I know, it's just, there's so many of them. That's why I was hoping the bylaws would be adopted because we go from 10 to 7.
Downsize these committees.
That's what the bylaws do. So hopefully by next month, that will be the case.
There's nothing saying you can't have a joint committee meeting also, and because you are all some of the same ones together.
Correct. That was also, I was trying to be thoughtful of that. Yeah, 2 of the committees you guys are on together.
Let me say this and I'll hush. It's not that I mind doing anything, but folks, I went to work at 3 o'clock this morning. I get home at 7 and 8 o'clock at night. You know, I'll do what I can. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
Who's finance again, please? Sylvia and Danny. My hope is that cemeteries and refuge and recycling is gonna be above it.
Would you send that list around?
Yes. You want me to finish going through it?
Sure, but
Facilities will be Roger Henry as the chair with John Purcell. And then there's the community events. These were both the 2 special committees. Roger Henry will be the chair on that, also with John Purcell. Trying to be thoughtful about people being able to have joint meetings. If the bylaws are adopted, the committees are established in the bylaws and there's only 7 of them, so there's significantly less. It's just there's 10 because our current charter or town code has 8 plus 2 special committees. And I can pass this around if you guys would like to take a look.
at some point in the future, I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna ask if we could get a copy of that.
Some point in the future, I'd like us to consider economic development.
So
that
under the new committees that are in the bylaws, if they are adopted, it's community development events, and part of it is economic development. Is what's discussed in that. Now we need to move to the next item, which is the discussion and action of the schedule resolution.
I know it's like council has to approve the appointment. I have. No, I
They're set by the mayor.
They're set by the mayor. I thought there was something in code that said they have to be approved. That was my only question.
No council commit.
Okay, then I'm fine. Too much code.
So the next one is the schedule resolution. Which is their meeting schedule. Correct.
For Tuesday.
Mhm. There a motion to move forward with approving the schedule resolution? Do we have a second?
For clerical purposes, I'm gonna change this to resolution 26-1 since the bylaw.
Yeah,
Mr. Patel.
Four.
Mr. Hayden. Ms. Ridley. Ms. Hart. And Dr. Rumford.
Four.
Okay, motion passes unanimously to approve the schedule resolution. We're going to move into the next agenda item, which is the discussion and action of the police department recruitment.
I would like to pull this over to Chief Document. This is a serious matter about how to be competitive to recruit. And I'll leave it at that. Did anyone from the committees want to comment?
We did meet, I can comment, we did meet, we are in full support of changing the pay band for the police to better meet the needs of the hiring process, and also implementation of a one-time sign-on bonus, which can be from 6 to 10,000 based on how the chief of police wants to promote that to the individual that he is interviewing. So he's not locked in to 10,000. It's 6,000 to 10,000 based on experience and qualifications. And half of that would be paid after the completion of the required field training. And then the remaining half of that one-time bonus would be paid at the end of April. So it is not a full payout at the beginning. It's not a payout until they complete the required field training in case they deem not to be acceptable to the police department, and we haven't already given them half of the bonus.
Okay, one piece of wording that you just mentioned, we've discussed up to 10. How do we set a minimum unit?
Up to, and that's reflected in the memorandum that's in the packet. It's up to $10,000.
So you're talking about the minimum.
Yeah. No, yes, I'm saying up to 10.
It's up to 10, okay.
Okay, so for the benefit of those who haven't been involved in discussion and only seen the memo, I would like Chief Notman to have some space to explain the problem. And it's a serious problem with recruitment. We're just not competitive. But I would like him to have, so that for the benefit of the rest of the council. Go ahead, Chief.
As members of the committees that I presented my proposal to are already familiar with the situation, and as discussed, and as most of you know, the police department currently has 4 vacancies. Essentially, we're down to myself and Sergeant Fallon at this time. Sergeant Fallon's gonna hit 25 years in April and is eligible to retire, which will potentially complicate the situation even further and puts an urgency to my proposal. If we haven't received, well, up until today, I spoke with a potential applicant, but we have not received any applications in about 2 to 3 months at this point at the advertised current hiring salary of $60,000. Approximately 2 months ago or so, we did have 2 candidates, one full-time and one part-time, that we were about to hire and start within a week or two, at which point another agency, Orange County, stepped up and offered that candidate $69,500 to work for them. Essentially, it having hard number of 60,000 and not having the flexibility at this point makes it extremely difficult to be competitive to get some of these people in here. Again, at the advertised number of 60,000, we have not received an application in 2 or 3 months at this point. And we have currently, as of today, no applications. the proposed range of 63 to 70 would give us flexibility. And as discussed, with the committees, the 63 to $70,000 range, proposed range would be heavily dependent on prior years of service, and other qualifications, that the applicant may have. With the current number of 60, essentially there is very little flexibility, close to no flexibility of differentiating between someone who's got 1 or 2 years on and somebody who, let's say, retired from another agency with 25 years on that's trying to come and join our agency. So again, we have 4 vacancies and a potential departure, which most likely looks like a departure in April or May with Sergeant Found. As most of you know, the current starting salary at the sheriff's office is $61,000, but that is for applicants that attend the academy. Lately, as of late, they've had 4 or 5 applicants, recruits going through the academy, through the last academy, and they lost about 4 or 5 even after they graduated. We are not set up. It'd be very complicated for us to send people to the academy because the academy is roughly 5 months or so, and then mandated required training after that for a period of 3 months. So if we were sending people to the academy, we'd be looking at about 8 months of salary, fringe benefits, equipment, and all that. And the complication is that we'd be paying the money, not have the officer, but the real problematic thing, as small as we are with us hiring people for the academy, is that DCJS mandates that we have certified field training officers training those recruits from the academy. It'd be very hard for us to maintain a certified field training instructor. If we had 1 or 2 in-house, and we sent somebody to the academy, we paid them for 3 months, and let's say we lost that field training officer during the 5 months in the academy, essentially we'd have to let that recruit go because nobody would be able to train them once they come out of the academy. That is why we are currently looking only for certified applicants. A large amount of agencies also offer the sign-on bonus. And in here, we discussed initially, I forget what my original proposal said, but between all the committees and the discussion that we've had, we ended up with the language of up to $10,000. Again, mainly based on qualifications of the candidate to kind of track with what surrounding agencies do have in place as well. But it would also be driven on the urgency that we are currently in. As stated, currently there is a huge urgency for us to get people through the door here. Let's say if we end up with 6 officers and we lose 1, we might not need to offer this sign-on bonus as urgently as we are currently in the situation we're currently in. Essentially, there was a table that I had for the committees. That's not attached here. My proposal with the increased salaries and the sign-on bonus, if we have 6 officers for this fiscal year, the adjustment can be made immediately and it would not have fiscal consequence to this year. There is roughly, at the very least, there is current savings of $105,000 within the police budget because of the 2 vacancies we've carried throughout the entire fiscal year and 2 partial vacancies that we are carrying right now. My estimate is that for future fiscal years, The difference in the salaries as adjusted, if they were to be adjusted, is $56,000, $56,376. If it was not possible to fund it for future fiscal years, I'm proposing to temporarily freeze half a position, which would then offset that amount to roughly $1,000. 1,083 would be the fiscal consequence if the proposal was to be accepted and by you all. Again, if it was financed, it would be about $56,000 for future fiscal years. And if we had to freeze half a position, then it would be a little bit over $1,000 fiscal back.
So this year you would have enough savings so it wouldn't go over the budget.
Yeah, I would not even influence. There's $105,000 of unused salary.
Right. And next year, if they froze the position, the only impact to the budget would be $1,000.
If we were to freeze half a position,
If you froze that position and still leave you how many positions?
5.5 at that point. And then the urgency as discussed is it takes us a while to process candidates. The best case scenario, if this was to be adopted and approved, we're still looking at the very earliest to have people in here by March 1, and that is really optimistic. At that point, we'd have to train these 2 or 3 officers between Sergeant Fallon and I, which would be a tall order, but it'd probably be doable. But that is the situation we're in. If this was to be approved immediately, again, by the time we would receive applications to the background checks, which require us to go to all the prior agencies, by the time we would schedule polygraph, psychological, medical exams, and all that, our best case scenario would be to have some people in here by March 1 or so. It's really coming down to the wire at this point on getting people in here and getting them trained while Sergeant Fallon is still with us. There may be a possibility he'll stay part-time, but that is to be seen. What he decides to do come April or May at the latest.
So mention either increase salaries or more to kind of police department.
We're not getting applications at the 60. The 2 candidates we had were stolen by another agency. So that is where we're at. I did speak to one possibility today, but I mean, that's still too far to be seen if that works out at this point, or if we go through all the steps like we did with the other candidates, end up spending money on polygraphs, psychological, medical, and then just lose them. Because the candidates are typically right now looking at what's the best financial option alternative for them. Usually when the applicant applies, usually they're not applying just to one place. They apply to multiple places, see who comes through and offers them a position, and then they end up going typically with the best option for them.
Advertising good for that?
I'm sorry,
Do you have a good budget for the advertising and put it out there?
now the advertising budget at this point, I am gonna have to see Mr. Turrell at some point. I believe my advertising budget's only hiring budget altogether is $3,000. I will be over on that, but that's at some point I will see Mr. Turrell and have to take that from the vacant salaries. I'm trying to get these people in here. So overall, this budget year, unless some catastrophe happens, I will not go over my overall budget this year, but there are gonna have to be some adjustments, namely in the hiring process. $3,000 just simply not enough when we're paying, I think, 400, 450 for a polygraph, right? So I mean, that's gonna be 2,000, 1,600, 1,800 just for the polygraphs for the 4 vacants.
But there's a larger issue with this, which is that there are a number of line items that have been budgeted way too low, that we will need to do a budget adjustment, as we're discussed. Once we get the audit, which is set to begin, the 26th. So we will need to adjust a number of the items. But the good news is what the expectation for any department head is that they stay within their budget. Line items will vary based on need, but the department as a whole has to be on track. And we'll hear a financial report that we're well below 50% of expenses at this time of the year. Typically, we'd be at 50%, but we're well below that. So there's a larger issue here. These line items will need to be adjusted as part of a larger budget adjustment. Discuss.
To add to that, I believe that we just talked about whether or not you needed an increase in money for advertising to reach out, possibly in a better format than what we're using now.
Well, I mean, for the future, between Mr. Turtle and I, we can do a little bit better with the line items. Let's say the $3,000. Mr. Buckley did this budget without much input from my end. So they are what they are. I only have, I believe, $6,000 for vehicle maintenance. I will exceed that. I mean, that's just one repair on a vehicle of any significance. But again, my expectation is unless absolute catastrophe happens, overall police budget, I will not go over. But there are gonna have to be year-end adjustments within line items. And we'll try to make better and more accurate predictions for the future budgets.
So to refocus us back on the agenda item itself, specifically the adjustments to the salaries or salary bands, not the salaries. It's just giving the latitude that you would need to hire the police officers potentially up to the top of that band.
Up to, yeah, yes, ma'am. Same with the sign-on bonuses and with the band. It wouldn't be that we would necessarily hire 4 officers at the maximum 70. I mean, it could happen. I don't foresee that, but it does give us the opportunity to place them according to their qualifications, years of service, certifications, and so forth, to put them in a range somewhere between that number.
You check with the other police departments, so we'd be within the range of what they're paying.
We were just, and I did give the committees an example. I mean, the sheriff's office approached our last remaining officer currently and offered 75,000 to become an SRO. So I mean, that is how competitive the market is. When we lost an officer 3 months ago, it was for the sheriff's office. So when our town PD officers often go on calls together with the sheriff's office, this is a twofold problem. One is nobody's coming in through the door and knocking on the door at the current salaries. Then once we do get them through the door, we do need to remain competitive realistically for us not to spend money, bring them in, equip them, which is not cheap, train them, so that then they go on calls with another agencies who's going to simply offer them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You check around with the other police departments to make sure we're gonna be within range
This
of what they're at.
this would make us a lot more competitive than where we are today. But like I said, the example I have is our last remaining officer was recruited at 75. The only reason he's not leaving, he doesn't want to work Monday through Friday. He wants to stay on the patrol schedule that he's on.
He's a sergeant too, correct?
Yes.
You?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So coming out of the committees, we decided not to just focus on just the police salary bands. We want to focus on all of them. So we want to update the salary bands in general. That's what's proposed on the, I guess, packet page 36. We've done police raises in the past by themselves, and that's always kind of bugged me. I want to treat everyone fairly. That's why try to do the whole thing, the whole salary scale at one time.
And then partially is because the police are embedded into the job titles of that have been adopted in 2024. So because they're already embedded in it. And again, it's not increasing the salaries, it's increasing the bands, which is the potential, the earning potential of those individuals. So that as Stewart starts to budget for the 26-27 fiscal year, he kind of knows where his latitude is with employees.
I thought that would have been the agenda. That portion. The rest of the conversation on the other workers.
Yes.
As I said, like, in the personnel committee meeting, I believe it was the Brewster's personnel committee meeting, I don't think we should break out the police department and make them separate. We've been doing this with the police with raises the whole time. I think we need to kind of increase everything at one time, be fair, and show that we're trying to be fair to every employee, not focusing on the police and the main time to focus on this one department.
Yeah. The only problem I have is that police officers put on a gun, a badge, and they've got people shooting at them possibly. And they don't have contract. Everything that what I'm seeing that our maintenance does, we got a contract. Now, where I stand on it, either the maintenance does the work, and we get rid of the contractors, or we go with contract. I just don't see paying big money out. Police department's different. I think we can pull it out. Police departments don't have contractors riding around with. You know, these guys is putting a gun on and a badge to protect the citizens of Louisa. I think we can. I know other government agencies does. They pull them out separate. They get raises, not giving the other. I just have a problem with these contractors. You know, we, believe it or not, we have contractors that approach us. But my theory is, if I'm going to spend my money on contractors, why have I got people working for them?
The answer to that is our staff is doing the best they can with a limited number.
Well, we need to, you know, hire more staff and get rid of the contractors. Is my answer to that.
Something to discuss in the finance budget.
And this, the only, well, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, and this again is, it's not giving raises. This isn't increasing anyone's actual salary.
What I'm saying is, we should be able to pull to help the police department out now. I mean, a man is coming to us tonight. And if we don't do something in May, possibly, we're gonna be down to one police officer. And, you know, what are we gonna do? Turn it over to the county? One police officer can't police the town of Louisa. The man has come to us tonight to ask him for help to recruit police officers. And for somehow it got mentioned to everybody. But we can pull that out. Other county agency does it in the state. They pull them out. The police department is pulled out from, I think the county over here gave the sheriff's department a raise and the rest of them didn't get a raise. And I hate comparing us to the county, cause they're born with a bigger auger than we do. But the police department, this man has come and said, hey, I'm running out of people. You know, I need this money to recruit somebody.
Yes.
And I think, now, correct me if I'm wrong, chief, you're wanting, I mean, I guess a quick fix would be to freeze a half of a position.
With my numbers, like, as I projected them, like I said, the decision would be up to you all, the town manager and the town. We could make this increase effective immediately, and this budget year, I'd be fine and fit within it because there's so much savings. If the 6 positions were to be fully funded, my estimate is it would cost going into the future roughly $56,000 into the next fiscal year to continue to have the ability to hire all full 6 officers. If for whatever reason the $56,000 would not be able to be appropriated, best case scenario, my suggestion is that it would be funded. If it cannot be funded, then my alternative is to propose half a freeze into the next fiscal year, which would keep it at cost neutral to the town. I'd rather have 5.5 at the higher salaries than the 2 about to be 1 at the current salaries. So I'd be willing to forego the half a position, and we'd still be able to provide reasonable services to the town.
Well, my question to you, you think this will help you recruit people?
We would have at least 1, if not 1.5 year a month ago if we were in this range. I would not have lost that 1 officer to Orange, where they offered 65 plus other 4.5 in incentives, 69.5 is what they offered in Orange. And essentially Louisa County Sheriff's Office would do the same thing. When I spoke with the higher up supervisors, the way their structure currently is, they are hiring at 61 for the academy, which we're not doing. They're giving $10,000, not up to 10,000, but $10,000 sign-up bonus. And they're giving $1,000 annually for every year of service. We came up, I think, is it 350? I believe.
Per year.
I think 350. They're giving $1,000 annually for every year of service. And that is how they were able to offer 75,000 to the officer we currently have.
You know, like I said, they have unlimited, seem like funding, or they have a bigger pocket to reach in. But, you know, this is where I'm at. I'm just one vote, one man, but this is where I stand on. I'm all for helping chief out with this, but we need to pull it out. Till we address the issues with contractors and everything else. I just can't see paying, giving everybody a raise when they're every time we do something, I see a contractor digging. I mean, you know, I just don't see that myself. So I'm just one vote, I'm one man, and that's my position on. But if we can help the chief out, keep the police department, we need to pull them out. And freeze the half a position or whatever he deems to be best. That seems to be the easiest way to go. And try to recruit some police officers.
So is that a motion?
I'll make that motion, but I'm sure somebody else wants to say something.
What are the wages now? Is that the minimum? So here,
Currently, that top table is for 24, that's the last time that any salary bands were addressed, was in September of 2024.
So minimum is what the salaries are now.
That's the minimum. No, they're hiring at 60 is what he's advertising for the
I'm
officer.
talking about wherever you want. So
Yes, these are not what their actual salaries are. This is the minimum that we could hire someone in at that job title.
So let me be clear, we're not increasing all the staff salary tonight. All this does is do a organizational wide ban that's equitable across everybody. Doesn't raise anybody else's salary tonight. That's not what this does.
Just gives the chief latitude based on,
that,
In the future, right? So that the whole organization is dealt equity. But it doesn't raise anybody else's pay. Right? Does not do that.
no, the full amount, the state, the other pay rate.
Get it here.
Sorry.
No, please, well,
You have to do it either way. I just prefer to keep it all the one. I know the others want it. But I'll talk it out. You know that.
I think no problem, you know, everybody has their own opinion.
That's how I think it's on. But it's not. That's what I'm saying.
We have a motion on the floor, don't we?
Yeah, are we clear on what the motion is? Do I need to restate that again?
yes.
All right, so help me out here. What
What do you want to happen?
all right, I want to pull the police out separate and give.
Approve the proposed. Which the proposed pay bands for the police.
Yes, to help them out to recruit off. And I understand.
I'm good. I just want to state that.
So I make that motion to pull the police salaries out, separate police department, give the chief the freeze the salary to recruit or whatever to improve his department. That's not a good way to put it. It's only how to put it. Will that work?
I think, yeah, first time, and then the motion is to approve the proposed pay bands for the police department.
We'll take roll.
You want to have discussion or do you?
Discussion.
I just want to add one thing. The pay bands was not discussed at the personnel committee. What was discussed was the fact that they were looking at the pay band. So this is, Mr. Terrell showed me this the other day. This was not developed during the meeting. The meeting was adjourned. And I left. And Mr. Terrell had left. What was done was they were working on developing the pay band. So, I just want to make it clear that the committee was not in session when this was in progress, because I had left and the meeting had been adjourned. That was it.
Well, during the committee meeting, it was discussed that they would raise the minimum 6%, which would be 3% year over year from 24 to 26 and 10%, because that's what would match what the chief was asking for. That's in my notes from the committee meeting.
Yeah, but this is better than my motion.
Yep.
We got a motion and second that we're gonna help the police department out.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what, but don't get me wrong, I don't know. You're just saying that in the committee meeting, you didn't discuss.
I never saw this.
Oh, I understand. Okay. So that has nothing to do with the motion that I have on the floor to help the police out.
No, it doesn't. What it does say is just that. So I'll make another motion to discuss the rest of it. That's why I'm saying. So, but we have a motion to,
Let's take care of my motion first.
So is there any discussion on the motion on the floor in the second?
Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
I would just like to state, I'm fine with pulling this out, but I do think we still need to, and it does not have to be at this meeting. I'm trying to defer it to a later meeting, but I do think we still also need to address adjusting the bands of the rest of staff as well. Maybe, I'm not saying we're doing it to this, I'm not making any suppositions as far as where that should be, but I do think that needs to be addressed. But I'm fine with separating out the police and going ahead and addressing that now and making sure that we continue moving forward to address the rest of personnel for the next budget cycle, if not before.
That's what.
I don't
Thank you.
percent. Once we find out where we stand as far as our budget and finances, that we can adjust this. Make it better. Everyone. Right now, until we find out exactly what we stand. Everything. Like to just make sure we get our police department.
I just would like to make one comment, and that is that it is very critical that this gentleman gets what he needs. But the Public Works Department is gonna be working this weekend, a lot of hours, moving snow, that work all kinds of hours. It's all kinds of weather. The staff is here as well, working, and we do need to address that these bans are equitable across the organization. That I'm here to lead an organization, the whole organization, and I think that's important. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Terrell. Just so you know, I'll be working all weekend too. 7 days a week. I'm not saying, what I'm saying is, and this is getting at bounds, what I'm saying is, I don't hire contractors to do my job. And I don't think we need to hire contractors and pay a public works department.
I understand what you're saying. But we'll, for a future discussion,
Yeah.
and I see you're on.
We'll discuss that in the future, so I guess we need to vote.
Any other discussion on the topic, the motion that has been made? Pull out the police department and increase the ban for the police. I'm gonna take roll. Mhm.
Mr. Henry. Ms. Rickman.
Four.
Ms. Hart. Four. Mr. Crawford. Mr. Purcell.
Against.
We're gonna move to our next item on the agenda, which is the just discussion of the water sewer capital project prioritization. I think, Mr. Terrell, you have it already in the packet.
Oh. Well.
Hold up from the
So it's important that these projects not stall, that when they're adopted, that we move forward and complete them in a timely manner. The committee met on this, the water sewer committee. Did finance meet on this one? It was just the water sewer.
It was
It was a joint meeting, that's right. It was a joint meeting. And we discussed the priority. This was forwarded by Mr. Larry and discussed at length by the committee. And would you like to talk about your recommendations? Well, I'll give it a
I guess we discussed always at length, and we think this is the best way to go about and to pursue each project. Because of unforeseen issues, we prioritize some projects ahead because lead times could push that project way down our list. We want to make sure we unearth any problems early on to account for those lead times.
So the priority of this is that we need to support the train. That's important for the economy. The master meters are really critical to the efficiency of the water system. I've seen communities where this wasn't a priority and it causes a lot of water loss and a lot of lost funds. Mr. Larry and I are working closely on this, and he's excellent in making sure as we work. I told him these got to be done correctly to eliminate lost water, and he's doing a fine job putting those in. So this is a very high priority that we're not losing any money. most towns of this size with aging systems and aging meters lose. What did we talk about? 10% water and
Last time we calculated, we were losing 10%.
but that's low for a town of size. Right?
Last time we did the same thing, I think the county was losing 12%, Mineral was losing.
The county's losing 12.
That's what, that's all last from.
Well, so we're still a leader, but we need to get better and this is a high priority, the meter replacement. The next is we talked about Cutler Avenue water line. It's ARPA funded. The meter replacement's ARPA funded. Things can't just stall out. We need to move on that before all water sewer problems don't get better over time. They continue to deteriorate. So it needs to be addressed. That would be third. Hollyhurst Avenue sanitary sewer. This is a failing septic field, needs to be addressed. I do need to schedule another meeting because we have a memo on cost on that, and it's more significant. And also there's a economy of scale on manholes, I think, if we go ahead and do some additional work. I think we're gonna need another meeting on that. These manholes on Main Street, we had one collapse. Public Works was out working 4 nights right in front of the sheets. Even the county was impressed how efficiently we worked to fix that. I talked to the county administrator, and the chief had his guys out there directing traffic. So that needs to be handled, and then the Main Street water. Do you have anything else?
Right. Where do we stand on this, train? Do we have a contractor?
I'm in discussions with them on the appropriate tap connection. The connection that we've discussed is now approaching $300,000. So this is another reason I need the water sewer committee to convene, because that is not something they're happy with. So I need to reassess not the fees, but if there's an alternate to what we had first proposed, and I have to review the ordinance as well as to the requirement for individual connections per building is impacted. The ordinance will need to be reviewed. It's more complicated. So I will need another water sewer.
I believe from my interaction with them that this is what our EDA is for. If we need assistance with getting a business up and running, and this is what they do, they have given money before and given and found grants to help a business that's already approved and coming in to do these infrastructure issues. So a possibility that we reached out to the EDA to see if they could assist.
I had never considered that. Usually EDA's projects are large, community-wide infrastructure projects that don't benefit one individual business. We'll talk about this at the organizational meeting this Saturday, but we do need to begin discussions with the EDA as to what infrastructure projects they want to involve themselves. So that is a valid question. We need to put that on the agenda for Saturday, but to do it for a specific owner, I'm not sure that's even allowed.
I know they've done it in the past, and that's the only reason I thought
Interesting concept. That's an interesting concept. And one economic incentive would be the EDA could provide infrastructure subsidies and then open it up to any business. That's an interesting concept, but right now to ask them to do that to support this. We'll have a discussion next Saturday as to the economic incentives that ED can supply. That should be on the.
Yeah, and I think we talked to the EDA. Because I know they asked me, let me correct that. Matt Percy asked me if there was anything they could do to help checkers because they were wondering what the time limit is for. And he's like, this is what we did. So if they were willing to, if he was willing to put out for one entity there, then this is just another entity. So they should be able to do it.
We need to understand our respective roles vis-a-vis the EDA and
Yeah.
what economic
Yeah,
incentives
yeah.
they can provide legally. That needs to be clarified, and I do recommend coming out of this organizational meeting, we have a joint meeting with council and EDA to get clear on our goals and vision. So we're working in lockstep and communicating.
Any further, just trying to keep us on track for the
Yeah.
agenda, any just additional discussion regarding the privatization that Stuart has provided?
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the Hollyhurst sewer, is this all town cost or is this also property owner cost included?
This would be the infrastructure we would need to put in place. You may have more familiarity with it to enable them to then connect.
We would future build a little bit because there are some costs behind it. It'll be beneficial to put in at the same time. But the residents would pay a hookup fee.
So this is just the town section of the piping that you're talking
This would
about
be
putting
to
in.
get us within 100 feet of their. Sorry. Just getting to 100 feet of property line.
That was my own.
And they would only pay for the connection fee that was based upon 2 years.
To be discussed. at the
To be
meeting.
discussed at this.
Yes. Oh, heck,
The one question I've got on this is, the train connection may be 2 or 3 months down the road before it's signed, sealed, delivered, whatever. And then Cutler Avenue, we got right of ways we gotta work on.
This list will be ever changing. Depending on backlogs and everything else. So this, at this current, this spot in time, this is the best plan of attack. It might change next week, it might change next month, but right now, we believe this is best.
Yeah, I just want to get it out, it may change because of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we good to move to the next item?
Yes, this is just to let you know, I don't think we need a vote informational. This is gives me operating marching orders. Okay.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the discussion of the budget schedule that I think Mr. Crowe has also included just in the timeline for you guys to look through for his proposal and put together of the budget.
Okay. All right, so let's just go over this briefly. Starting to get a little late. For a successful budget to happen, it needs to be planned and worked methodically through from start to finish. The way I've envisioned this is that well, first let me say the process for the budget is a detailed revenue forecast. We then factor in forecast of anticipating operating expenses. Then we develop a CIP. Then we set goals and objectives. This meeting, this Saturday, and then we launched. This year, I'd also like to have a workshop where department heads actually come before you, the committees or you guys, and say, this is what I need. And then we have a conversation. Once the budget's adopted, and I plan to adopt it by May 1, hopefully, marching through the schedule, then I will take care of it. I will get these projects done. I will make them happen with the staff. I can, I can drive the process, but the important thing is, in the budget period, beginning the 24th, what our goals are, what we want to accomplish in the budget starting July 1. We put them in the budget, we talk about them beginning January, and then by mid-April, you'll know exactly what's in the budget. And then you'll say, okay, Stuart, take it with the staff and make it happen. Okay? And this is a transparent process. I'm not gonna split things in there. We're gonna talk about everything, and I'll give you a preliminary budget, sometimes towards the end of March and early April. That way we won't be rushing up against the end. Real quickly, if you want to look at the calendar, next page, goal setting special workshop will be this Saturday, 9 to 12, with Dunkin' Donuts or a local. So that's the critical first budget thing. Coffee and pastries or whatever. Then after that, I'll write a budget message to the staff with goals, and I'll develop a CIP request form. I have a model that I'll adopt that everybody in the staff can fill in: IT equipment, police equipment, public works things, facilities. Then we'll have forms, and we'll develop a CIP capital budget that we've talked about. And I have staff with Francesca and Miss Hicks. So I'll write a budget message. I'll start the revenue forecast after our meeting. I will discuss with department heads the operational needs. We'll get the audit that's going to kick off the 26th. By mid-February, we'll have that data. I will complete the revenue forecast towards the end of February, and expense forecast by the end of February. Then we'll get input on all these CIP, the capital items that you want, the rail, the ball field rail, any facilities. I think Mr. Crawford, you mentioned some of the deteriorated buildings. We'll have everybody's input into it in a CIP form in an orderly process. Then we'll put it into a 5 to 10 year CIP schedule. Then I'll present you a preliminary operating budget somewhere around mid-March. I think there should be a special workshop to discuss it around the 1st of April with department heads. I don't have to convince you. Let Chief Nachman, Mr. Larry, and the staff talk about what they think we need. Let them come before you as well. All right. Discuss the then we'll have further discussion as we move forward. If we need a special workshop, we could have one. I want the full budget adopted by May 19th. Any questions?
Beautiful. All right. The last item of new business, which is the discussion and action of the Dominion waterway request for undergrounding of electrical lines.
Yes.
This is the underground lines that's going to connect. I think it's that yellow house.
Let me just, where I put that document, but this is an underground line that Dominion is asking for right-of-way easement running roughly from Fredericksburg Avenue down School Street to make a turn at Church. They want some right-of-way to take the electrical lines that are above ground, place them underground. It doesn't conflict with the VDOT. We own the property. There's an analysis that they do about areas that have had a number of calls for service. It's a way for them to make the calls for service more efficient. The snowstorm is coming this way, it's not, if they put the lines underground, not only does it provide aesthetic because you don't have the lines, but it protects the lines from rupture. So town attorney reviewed the right-of-way request. You and I have seen these projects around the state where they're basically giving us the money to do this. In many places I've been, the town does this because they want to improve the aesthetics, particularly the downtown. But they're doing it on their own dime. All they're asking for is the right of way. I don't see any conflict with it. I only see a benefit. The only thing is I asked them not to conflict with the baseball schedule or any actual activities. I was hoping Mr. McMurtry, the Dominion Energy consultant, would be here, but that's the gist of it. Did I capture it?
One change.
Okay.
It does not run from Fredericksburg, runs to the ball field in the fairgrounds to this ball field, then he's off, not he's off, but
That's right.
runs to the yellow house after that, so it doesn't actually come.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right.
Is this all our property?
Well, comes through the fairgrounds, it's not all ours.
So it's not all our
It's
property.
next to the
It's just right here at the Howard scale.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're getting separate easements from the other parties associated. They're looking to try and get our portion as
This
well.
is
The town's property portion.
that's my,
of their
that's my
property.
question.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the project scope, like, but the only place they're asking for right of ways along this side of the
On
road.
the property that we own.
They're all carrying the electrical heads from Comcast and whatever else there stays.
Very few holes that come out, they exclude people, so. I don't know.
They don't have to do anything, really.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to approve the, right of way agreement. With that.
And I would add to that and authorize the town manager to execute it.
And authorize the town manager to execute it.
Any discussion? Any call
Ricky, Sport, Art, Book, Robert.
Four. Four.
Motion passes unanimously. We're moving into old business. Go ahead. Which is the discussion and action on the town clock.
Okay, so I wanted to update you on our clock project. So I sent this around in my weekly update. I met with Mr. Purcell and explained that the first two items to make this happen and get this project complete is to get VDOT approval, which we received December 19th for roughly where the metallic waste basket is in front of the courthouse. And I'm sorry, in front of the auditor, but so the next step, I've spoken with the county administrator, is to approve an MOU for the use of the electrical connection coming from that building. We were at the site January 8th, and he agreed to it and is excited about the project. Okay, so the MOU's in your packet. Did some preliminary analysis. The only cost to the town. There may be some contractor costs to build the base, but as far as I understand it, Mr. Powell is covering, Mr. Purcell is covering that cost. But he has a contractor in place to construct it once the base is there. Then the county has an electrician to connect the line from the Og building to the clock. There may be some small cost share in that. Again, I'll discuss that with Mr. Purcell, but it should not be that significant. He has the clock. I met with Mr. Purcell. He has the clock and a contractor that can install it once the base is in. So I'm asking tonight, well, let me just run through it. Once that's in, well, he wants Mr. Purcell wants to revise the design to be a two-face clock. The design he's got in mind now is one face facing out. He wants two faces facing, is it north, south, or east and west? Still east and west. Okay. And so he's redesigning the clock. So he requested that I slow down and let him get design approval. I've got everything else lined up for this to happen. As soon as he gets the design final and the clock will then be constructed once we put in the base and make the electrical connection. Okay. So his time frame is more along the lines of, I said, when do you want this? He said spring, April or May. This would also include a plaque. Said something about a separate plaque he would like. Okay. So I'm asking tonight, the next step that the town can do to set this up for him to install the clock is to approve this MOU with the county for electrical connection at the hall building. And that's in the pack. Okay, any question?
I just have one question. We're paying for the base, or we're installing the base and he may reimburse us.
I need to clarify that, but it will require a concrete base. And I'm talking to the county, can the electrician put the base in? And if so, could we do a cost share on that as well as electrical connection? And they seem agreeable, just haven't completed that. The logic of it is sign an MOU for the electrical connection, finalize the design with Mr. Purcell and his contractor. Once he's got that, get with the county, connect the line, install base, and then the electrical line will go up through the base. He puts in the clock. We then have a plaque associated with it. He wants to slow it down. I said, I can make this go as fast as you want. He said, I need more time with him. Okay. Okay.
To add that, my assumption is if you're gonna work with the county, that they'll ensure that wherever this is located, it's not conflicting with something else, the base size.
We've nailed down the county administrator. I nailed down the location. He was good with it. It's basically where the waste basket is now. The VDOT said, okay, replace it. We had to negotiate. Mr. Larry and I met with them about whether we need to do a whole ADA design, redesign, $90,000 and something, but they agreed not to do that. We just replace an existing structure with this. So he was good with it. The only other thing is at the last meeting, I heard some discussion about the electrical costs. And I used that wonderful fountain of intellectual knowledge, ChatGPT, and Google what a 120 the clock electrical voltage is 120 something. It said it's only 0.008 cents for $0.008, which is 0.8 of a cent. It's 0.8 of a cent per kilowatt hour. And if you multiply that by a $10 or $15 kilowatt hour fee, the MOU says something about we would be responsible for electrical costs, but I calculated it to be $292. So it's peanuts. So the only other cost that could come forth is the base, maybe a cost share on the electrical connection, which I will discuss with Mr. Purcell, and then the electricity.
Yeah.
My understanding was when Mr. Purcell came and addressed the council, he was gonna pay for all of it. Is that right, Rodney? So he's gonna pay for the concrete on 9 yards, unless he's changed his mind. He may have changed his mind.
that he seemed perfectly agreeable to cost. He's not concerned about that. I just haven't given him an estimate. I don't have, we're still finalizing what the clock needs because I don't have the final design. Still stuck there. What does the clock need? What kind of base? What kind of clock is it gonna be? So I just have to nail that in. And it's, I mean, I'm trying not to overcomplicate it. I don't have all the actual construction details yet. I want to keep it as simple as possible. But I just don't have the final design. I think he's good.
To make a motion.
Just to approve the MOU for the electrical connection to the AUG building, which is what the clock needs. It's the MOU, memorandum of understanding with the county for the electrical connection.
Make a motion for the MOU with the county.
Second,
Okay.
any discussion? We call
Ms. Hart, for Mr. Crawford,
Four.
Mr. Patel,
Abstain.
Mr. Henry,
Four.
Ms. Ruby.
motion moves with approval. We're going to move to the next item on the agenda, which we moved up comments and discussion for members of town council. Are there any comments or discussion by members of town council? Yep.
There's been some safety issues that have been brought up in the past. Ball field. Electrical and maintenance building. Other buildings that have problems. The maintenance department, last time we worked at night, they used flashlights to see in the maintenance building to do it. Go dark in there. When it's cold, the fluorescent lights just don't want to light up. It's getting to the point it's getting very unsafe and dangerous. And we're going to have to either do something or shut these buildings down until we can.
Sorry, which building?
The maintenance building. I think there's mold in the police department. It's dangerous. Ballpark down here, the building beside the maintenance building doesn't have any electricity in it. Building behind the maintenance building is ready to fall down. So, you know, I brought it up for 6 months. And nothing's been done at all about any of it. And I think it's time we start getting these things fixed and getting our buildings updated or closing down and don't work out. It's getting to that point, and I'm worried about personnel and people playing ball back here. It's bad. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments or discussion?
I do. Half of it you've already heard. I'd like to have us discuss also putting a time limit on SUPs and CUP so that we're not tying up property in the town of Louisa, that developers are not developing and in turn turning around and selling it multiple times the cost of what they paid for it. And it's just all sitting there with us getting no benefit from it. So I would like to have that expiration added as a discussion item. And the second part is I had a parent tell me that they fell into a porta potty when they were 7 and they refused to take their kids to our parks for that very reason. So that is why I keep pushing this issue. If we want these parks to be utilized by the town residents, then we need to give them the facilities that they are willing to use. And right now, I mean, there are people that go to those parks, but I know a lot that won't with their kids. So I would like to also have the facilities or whichever group is called. Discuss putting in a real bathroom at our park. It's up to the county to do it at the other park, because that is their property. And they are also aware of this, so but we need to do something, especially if we want, because there are things that we can do to improve the outcome of our park, because there are grants out right now for physical fitness activities. But if we can't get people to go to the park now, that's not going to bring any more out. So that's the only two things I have.
I will have a CIP form to be filled out that we'll call it permanent bathroom at the park in this budget year. And we will have CIP form repair of the deteriorating buildings.
Any other council members? If we can go ahead and move into the stating, I'm sorry,
It's too late. I just wanted to add that I want us to discuss the rest of the pay bands, just not tonight. Yes, thank you. I didn't want that to get forgotten.
committee reports. Personnel committee.
Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. I think we had a little confusion at last meeting. We did say we were getting that we met out to discuss the council. That's how I thought we left it. Again, there's some confusion there. Good news is it's on paper, so we can all view it.
That's what I meant. That's the first time I've seen it. I know we discussed moving it, but I did not ever see the numbers.
We can discuss emailing it to you first.
That didn't happen, yeah.
I think I went to you, went to your email. I went to send you your email.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's the two emails that I had. But, anyway, that was just there's a confusion point in the last post. That's one thing later.
Anything from legal matters? Trash recycling and litter control.
Well, trash, contract's coming up this year, so we need to start checking into that.
Finance committee.
Finance met jointly with, water sewer. The main discussion has already been discussed. It was the only discussion really was just the, police, salaries. So no further report there.
Cemeteries.
We need to set up a meeting for the cemetery committee and contact the citizens that's on this committee, get some recommendations. There is some work that needs to be done up there on the roads in the cemetery. They're getting bad and need some attention. And I would like to discuss ways of bringing in more income to the cemetery, which will probably require somebody else. We'll talk more about that. I think I saw some words in there. Well, Mr. Terrell had something about that somebody doing the zoning and stuff like that or something. Maybe we could do something. But anyway, we need to set up a cemetery committee meeting. We just probably a week night after say 6 o'clock or 6 o'clock or later.
Streets and sidewalks.
Did not
Water sewer. We've already discussed,
stress pretty much everything of major.
as well as police committee. All right. We can now move into the reports from staff. Start with police chief.
Last month, on Saturday, the 20th, we had the, Mrs. Purcell's 5K run. It had a pretty large turnout and, went without an incident. It was a joint effort from the police department and public works that assisted us due to our current staffing with that event. Last week, Mr. Terrell and I met with, VDOT. Two things that came out of that. We further discussed the issue of not being able to exit the police station, especially during rush hour traffic. It looks like potentially VDOT's gonna look at a preemptive device for the courthouse light. It's probably not my area, but VDOT also discussed potentially timing the lights through town, especially during rush hour, to let that traffic go and not have it back up almost to industrial over there. So they're looking at potentially sinking the 4 lights. But from the police side, what they are gonna look into, and county is also in support of it because of their fire apparatus across the street, who have preemptive devices where the police and fire would be able to trigger those lights and exit our facilities. So I'm sure it's gonna take a little bit before they come up with costs. It looks like VDOT would take care of the lights, but then we would have to look into how much that would be per vehicle or how that would work. Or if I could possibly get some grants for that. The second thing, I still don't have an answer or a number on the speed trailer, but I think I have potentially a better solution. While at the VDOT meeting, we discussed whether they would allow us, the town, whether it would be the PD or Public Works, to put up the signs that display speed. And it looks like I will file a permit application, and they made it sound like it would be approved. Because we do have citizens that's complain of speeding, and some of those complaints are legitimate, especially at the entry points of Ellisville on the west end main lane where we seem to be getting complaints and so forth. So what I was looking into, actually those signs came down tremendously in price. And we can get them for about $500. VDOT only has 2 signs for like 6 or 7 counties. So it's really not feasible to ask them for those signs, but the prices have come down as low as $500 for a small solar panel and the lights, which would raise awareness. They would potentially allow us to put them, not permanently, but they're also not putting time limit on it, on their sign. So it would be a temporary and rotating basis solution, whereas we would get complaints, we would move those signs around. It looks like right now, once I see my line item, some of my line items later this month, I can probably absorb 2 or 3 of those signs from within my current budget. Again, because we don't have officers, we're not buying as much equipment right now, and we can probably reappropriate it from that. So, typically it takes them about 30 days for the permit. We just learned last week. So within the next 30 days or so, hopefully we will hear from them. And I do think that it would raise awareness. I mean, I have them in the community where I live, and sometimes you just don't realize the speed that you're traveling at, and that sign certainly adds to the awareness of people's speed. So initially I'm looking at about 2 to 3, and once a month or so, depending on complaints and our internal assessment where they would be best fit, we would just move them around. And again, they would be attached just beneath the speed limit VDOT sign. So no additional poles or signs that would need to be installed by us, the town.
Ask you a question. Last Friday, we couldn't even get out of the middle school. The traffic to town was backed up past the middle school. And this is at 3:15, 3:30. Was there something going on, or is that just how bad traffic has gotten lately?
Now, I don't think
It's always on a Friday when this happens.
I don't think See, I don't think we had an incident in town, or I'm not aware of anything that backed it up. I'm not aware of anything that would have backed it up, but they were discussing between the buses, and I forgot what they said, 500 or 600 vehicles. Something like that associated with, people picking up kids, between the kids driving.
Yeah, we
And
couldn't even
everything.
get out. We couldn't even get out of the property. That's how bad it was.
County officials were discussing timing the lights over at Jefferson and then Courthouse, but I added that it would have to be done with Fredericksburg and then Courthouse Square. Timing the first two lights would not do anything, because then Fredericksburg and Courthouse Square backs it up as well. So, that's probably gonna take a little bit.
They talked about staggering schedules.
They were gonna meet with school officials to see if it would be possible. But then the overall thought was that it would just really make the rush hour longer, which I do agree. I mean, if you stagger it and you don't bring 100% of the volume in, but let's say you stagger it and bring in 70% of it, the town lights can still handle that. So my estimate would be, would just prolong the pain, really, but the pain would still be there, and which is, I didn't bring that up, but I concur with that assessment. So I think timing the lights in favor of westbound traffic would be the way to go. From VDOT's perspective.
We need to like that courthouse square.
I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but it was discussed removing it in the last engineering study that VDOT did. They're now supposedly doing another one. I haven't seen the results of that. But it's something that we can't just remove it. We have to request for them to remove it. And the office this cost to redirecting to Rosewood, Fredericksburg to let people out. It's being talked about, and we need to really go back to that again to VDOT.
I think they'd have to do some sort of a study of numbers and put the counters on the roadway just to see how many cars travel through there at various times throughout the day. To make that assessment whether it'd be safe for people. I'm sure the main concern would be vehicles making a left out of there. I mean, do you need that light there for vehicles making a right out of Courthouse Square onto Main Street? Arguably no. But it would probably be counting the vehicles and at what times, whether that left-hand turn would be safe.
Bring people down to, next road in at the hospital there, and they could come out and get to that.
But I think if they're gonna time 3 lights, they may as well time 4.
Yeah.
My thought.
We get on to, go ahead. Is that any other details on your report? Chief's report? All right. Public Works, I know there is an email in there.
There's a report in the pack.
If there are not any questions, I'll move to legal counsel.
Madam Mayor, the only update I have, and I think I may have sent an email around, was to the pending land use appeal in circuit court that has been set for the Byrne hearing. So that's a hearing on the town's motion to dismiss, essentially. The next action in that case will be June 1. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay. Clerk report.
So. The Savvy app launched and I put just a little QR code in here in case anybody's not signed up and wants to plan for that. We're getting streets, like little signs, like yard signs, so Public Works and their crew will be putting those out to me, which I appreciate them for that. The big thing on here to talk about is the water disconnection. So, Mr. Larry and I provide just a little bit of data on how our first round of water disconnections went. So Mr. Larry and his department, hung 81 delinquent notices on, yeah, so that's a lot. They were out there for a hot minute hanging out notices. 73 for residential, 8 for businesses, and from that, we were able to recover over $21,000. So really their hard work out there really came and put money back in our pocket between them disconnecting and I think we made $450-ish from just reconnection fees. So they really put in the work out there very nice. Treasurer report.
And as of December 30th, so it's only 2 weeks different from the last one, just to keep it month to month. We're still on track. Like the store said, the audit is Monday, so it's Monday. We'll just go from there.
In the weekly update, I included the financial report. You can see that revenues are coming in what's called in economics robust. The sales tax is already over budget midway through the year. The meals tax is coming in strong. The personal property tax is coming in at a high level. And the also good news is that expenses are well below 50%. What was the last statistic we had on the water, sewer, and general fund?
General fund expenses to date are at 28% of the budget.
Yeah.
The budget for the year.
So that's excellent, is it not?
Yes. But normally it's been about half a year, so we expect to see somewhere around there, depending on, if you have emergencies or whatnot. So it's good. Your utility funds are doing the same thing. The water fund is up a little bit for the expenses. It's at 34%. But I think that has a lot to do with capital projects, as we were talking about the last time, needing to pull that out of there so that you'll get a better understanding of what your fund balance is without that. And then sewer's at 36% for your expenses.
But we're well under our expenses for this time of year, and the revenues are coming in strong. Yep.
And on that, you gotta be careful on the billing from county to town, so it's a little bit delayed. I don't think we see 50% at the end of the year. I think we'd be a bill behind. I remember right how it comes in.
The water, sewer bills lagging.
So when that comes out, we usually will do journal entries to rotate those funds back to the prior fiscal year. If it's something like that, it just happens a lot. If we're billing someone for May and June, but the bills don't go out to July and it's not due until August. But that revenue should be accounted for back in the prior fiscal year because it was for a service period of May and June. That's part of the audit process. Is that what you asked? Did you look at? You're like, okay.
That's, I give you for the revenue side, but, for the expenses side from the water authority, I think that bill lags about a month or so.
So he's saying that to true it up, it'll be more than 30%.
So we do the same thing with the expense.
Okay.
We pay for that pump, 55,000.
And that's one of the first months of the new fiscal year.
It's 110 total.
But part of it was last fiscal year, part of it was this fiscal year.
Last year, yeah. And then 55, have we paid that?
Both should be paid. I'd have to go back and check the bill list, honestly. We should have those right in July. When we approved it.
That's in the, what they're talking.
Yeah.
Thank you for the up and down arrows.
I'm sorry, I know
This was, yeah.
I get a little decorative, but I like it. Easy to just, I like it to look at. Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah, the other good news is, I'm a businessman of an organization of taking tax money and trying to protect it and provide services. And I look at the cash. The cash in deposit is almost 7 million. Is that right? That's pretty strong.
Can't believe that it's gotta be spent.
That's true. Well, but we're well under budget, so that's fine. So
Is there anything in here showing how much we own in loans?
Got good much wrong, but
Your debt service, expenses are listed in here. It doesn't break them out completely. Cause I put the expenses together by department just to make it a little easier for pulling those reports every month. But there should be a line for. There's maintenance. There's a debt service. Sewer loan. In the sewer fund, sorry, there's one in the sewer fund, so you can see that. That has been halfway spec'd out already, so you probably made one bond payment. You still have the other one in May for the end of the fiscal year. And then. Was it just your utility fund that had the debt service? Or the general fund also? You can stop talking.
I think it's just the utility fund. I don't think we have anything in the general. You do?
I can,
He comes to this later.
you guys can bring the details back.
Yeah, you get one next, okay. All right. Thank you, but overall, our finances are solid, right?
Town manager,
Okay, so to follow up on Chief Knockman's request. Then we need to move on to closed session. The VDOT meeting was very productive, particularly that the county was there. And they recommend that we form a task force to address all this congestion. We agreed to set that up going forward and improve our communication with the county, the VDOT, and ourselves. So we're working lockstep on all these grants and demand modifications on busing and whatever road engineering things we do. So it's not, when I look at some of the history here, I see we did something, the county did something, VDOT did something. We need to start coordinating. Economic development, it's time to find the highest and best use for the vacant 52 acres of the industrial park. I'm going to call each of you. We need to improve the tax base and try to move away from consumption taxes to improving the tax base and bring in some good paying jobs. I'm researching the current zoning. It does not allow anything beyond basic manufacturing. And I'm going to recommend some more technology uses that are modern, that are build the tax base and create good jobs here. I'm going to call each of you about that, and we'll move forward on that. The goal is to bring the highest and best use business into that location. After action report on the Christmas tree. I think I said this at the last meeting. Received so many positive comments about that event. While installing the clock, the county administrator just walked up to me and said, Stuart, thank your staff. I really enjoyed the beauty of the downtown. I didn't prompt that. So good job, Public Works. They really got out there with some advice. And so they loved it. And I used that opportunity to say, well, let's partner on things. Let's work together on the downtown. And I said, we need a comprehensive downtown master plan that we're all working off of, with parking, the sidewalks, the road. So the chamber and everybody, county, we all know we're working towards the same goal. I think Main Street will have that. I talked about the budget. We don't need to go into that. The water main project is proceeding. We had a hitch that we worked through and did not have to use boil water notices because the pressurized line was maintained. But the project consultant and Mr. Larry jumped on it and prevented it from growing. So good job. Finally, I would like to recommend listening to the meeting. I own this. I'm going to call y'all before the meetings and try to get your questions before the meeting. And you please write your questions to me before the meeting, and I will forward them to the appropriate staff rather than showing up and having your questions and then having us to answer. So as a process improvement, I'm gonna make a point of calling y'all, but please, before the meeting, email me with your questions so I can get them answered. That way the meeting will flow more efficiently. Thank you. That concludes my report.
And I had something very short. I would, could you please, as a town manager, tell yourself and tell our staff how appreciative I am of the efforts that they have put forth lately.
Yeah, I certainly will. Thank you. I know they appreciate that. They're a hardworking group, public servants. I will transfer that message.
The last item on the agenda is our closed session.
Would you let me state the motion?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, council members, we need the motion to convene a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2371181 to discuss personnel matters involving candidates for appointment to the EDA and pursuant to 2.2371183 for discussion of disposition of public property where discussion in open session would adversely affect the town's negotiating strategy. Second.
Robert, Mr. Crawford,
Or,
Mr. Patel, Mr. Henry, Ms. Reese, four, Ms. Moore, four.
Okay, we are now reconvened in open session. I'm okay to move forward with this. At this time, we're going to certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion to enter the closed session were heard, discussed, and or considered.
Okay. You can make a motion. So,
Okay, Mr. Henry,
here. 4.
Mr. Reese,
Four.
Ms. Hart, four, Mr. Crawford.
4.
The last item on the agenda is adjournment.
So,
Second. All in favor?
or,
Aye.